Good evening, Dr. Lamb.
Good evening, Regina. How are you?
Doing pretty good. It's spring break, thank goodness.
Lord. And you showed up here?
We made it. We're still alive. We're still alive.
Well,
Oh,
congratulations.
thank you. Thank you. Hey, Jerron.
Oh, hello. I
Uh,
went to work today.
you
I'm
went to
sorry.
work.
Yeah.
Why?
I'm trying to save those annual leave days so that I can retire early.
I,
Uh,
when I was young, like you, I did that as well. So I have saved those days. I have so many sick leave days now. I could probably just quit now a couple years early. So, yeah, save the days when you can.
Right now,
Now,
I have about a year and a half worth of
Mhm.
annual leaves. I could retire a year and a half earlier than I am also. I'm going to retire early anyway. So,
all right. So it's been a minute since I retired. Um, let's see. They pay you out your sick days,
mhm.
but they only give you service for your annual leave days towards your 30.
Mhm.
um I hate to tell you this, you get to retire earlier, but it's not a good financial decision. I mean, um in terms of, it doesn't add that much if you're going from 28 to 30. Yeah, but if you're going from 30 to 32, dollar a month, some ridiculously low amount. Now they could have changed that, but I believe that's it. But if you want to retire early and you've got an exit plan, it's a
Mhm.
great idea. That's what my wife did. She did the early exit deal where she got her 30 years in.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, that's a good deal. But if you're going to work past if you're going to work past 30, it's not a good deal. And if you don't have some place to exit to, so those are things. When you get to about 25, 26, 27, you got to start looking for your exit plan. You're not going to be able to retire on what they're going to pay you unless you're going to live out in the woods somewhere. You're not going to. You're going to have Act Two somewhere. Um, and so, but you need to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You need to either cross the state line and work on a different retirement system or go to a university. I tell you, the best job. Tell you right now, the best job you can get, community college. If you can get one of those, man, that you have to back up to the boss man on payday. You can't even look him in the eye. You didn't do enough work that month to look the boss man in the eye on payday. I'm telling you what. Now that's the deal, is to go to work in the community college. If you can get one of those gigs. Now, the problem with that is if you're in North Carolina, you need to jump across the line because all the state people are universities, community, they're all on the same retirement system. So, but you can jump across to South Carolina, or you can jump if you're in South to North. But yeah, you got to change states on that. And of course, you can jump back into the school system. But if you can get into community college, it's a whole lot better than getting back into the school system. But now they pay really well in South Carolina. Um, if you they pay for your degrees, whether you've got licensure or not. It's a really good deal. I have a friend that worked with us in Gardner Webb for about 10 years, and he's teaching English in Blacksburg, makes $100,000 to teach high school English with 42 kids. Yeah, in Blacksburg. They think he's a wizard because he can read and write in Blacksburg. They think it's magic. The bar is not high. The bar is not high. Y'all don't remember. There was a fellow, I think he was on TV a little bit, but he was a humorist that wrote books. His name was Louis Grizzard. Been 30 years. But I always loved the title of one of his books, Shoot Low, Boys. They're riding Shetlands. They're riding Shetlands in South Carolina. Trust me. You won't be outwitted. You might be outgunned, but you won't be outwitted. But what I like about the South Carolina model, I truly do. It's like when I started 50 years ago. They give you your grade book, a pack of dusty chalk and a couple of hard erasers, a hell and hearty handshake, slap you on the back and say, we'll see you at Christmas. They don't bother you. They don't coach you. They don't mentor you. They don't do you in any way. They leave you alone. They're paying you big money. They expect you to be able to handle your business. And if you can, now I said it on a dissertation this morning. I don't know why. I think I was a methodologist in curriculum. I don't know why they had me. But anyway, it was a Hertzberg study. And that's one of the things that she talked about is it doesn't matter. I mean, young people, that grit and resilience got nothing to do with school anymore. Young people don't have that. There's no need to talk about that anymore. They don't have it. You got to mentor and monitor and coach them. And so that's what South Carolina does. Is South Carolina, they just hire people that don't require that because they don't have that and don't want that. They just want people to come and handle their business. I think I've told you that story before, but it's worth telling again that that if you can manage your own classroom, that's a good retirement gig. Or if you want to not have any students, just go to community college. You'll have a few every now and then. And so that should be your second act. Well, welcome everybody. Got the last one in. We'll go ahead and we'll get started. Let's see. I see that Mondale's with us tonight, thank goodness, because he's gonna fill in tonight. Kanisha can't be with us. She's ailing. And so Mondale's gonna fill in tonight, and I had some things prepared tonight as well. And so our star of the week is Naisha, because she put a bunch of things in Blackboard this week that I really loved, and I want to do a little follow up on tonight. And that because it's time to follow up on our activities. I need to kind of go through some of those as well, our assignments. So the first one that Naisha put in was about 21st century, and she talked about modeling. And we all know that that's Bandura. And that holds fort for both students and especially young teachers. That's what got me into that rant just a couple minutes ago is if your model is to grow your own, like North Carolina's model, then you've got to do the modeling. And that goes back to your theorist, and that would be Albert Bandura. Anytime you say, I want to do this, that, or the other, what is the theoretical basis that gives you a good idea that might work? Other than I saw somebody else do it, or we saw that at the workshop and it was fun, or what problem are we trying to solve, or what need? Well, I don't know. It just looked like it'd be a good thing to do. Anytime that you're looking for a program, a treatment, or a fix, you need to look at the theoretical basis behind it. Absolutely, you need modeling for beginning teachers. How many times, I'm the most repetitive person in the world, how many times have I talked to you about unbalancing your schedule so that those young teachers can be modeled? You can't, sitting in the lounge talking to your mentor is not modeling. And it's barely mentoring. It's that's about the lowest level of mentoring is sitting in the lounge talking during your planning period. I've never been convinced that had a lot of value. But what you want is modeling. You need to learn about Bandura. Thank you for that, Naisha. All right, curriculum challenge. You've got a lot of curriculum challenges. The far rights, don't they just homeschool their kids? Leave us alone. But they're not going to do that because most of them don't have a high school diploma, which is the requirement to be a homeschooler. That's the only requirement to be a homeschooler is have a high school diploma. And some of them, they don't have one in the whole family. Of course, the family tree's got no limbs. It don't fork off too much. And so that's that crowd. And so, what was relevant about Naisha's answer was it was out of Tennessee. And the original curriculum challenge started where? In the United States of America. Where did the original curriculum challenge start? Tennessee. Got to know your history. You got to be a learned person. Who remembers the name of that trial in 1925? Clarence Darrow was for the defense. Williams Jennings Bryant for the prosecution. Who was the defendant? That would be John Scopes. That was the first curricular challenge in this country 101 years ago. So it's not new. It started literally 101 years ago when you had the hard right at that time fighting against teaching evolution in school. So it's not new. It's not different. It's always the hard right. You know, every time nationalism pops back up or populism, that's what comes with it. And then we have periods of prosperity when we can do some more creative things and we can kind of move forward as a society. And then that crowd, the nationalist crowd, rears their head again, the hard right, and we have to stop and deal with that. We're in one of those periods now. So it's no comfort to know that this started over 100 years ago, but it should be illustrative that when we go through these periods in national politics, it filters down to the state and local level with the ultra conservatives that are always going to challenge whatever you do. That's going to be part and parcel of it until their crowd gets voted out, and then it'll quit. But that's how that goes. And so my point in saying that there's no fix. The only fix is they have to get voted out. That's your only fix. Nothing you're going to do is going to make them happy. Whether you capitulate or give in or what, that doesn't matter. The only thing, eventually they'll go away when their party goes away. All right, the next thing that Naisha had was effective curriculums. And I want to pick up on her answer and say, I think, this is just Dale's opinion, I think for any curriculum to be effective, the work has to have meaning that you have students to do. I think that's the key right there. Most any curriculum can be effective if kids engage with the work and the work is engaging. Engagement's the key. Regardless of what we're trying to teach, it's engagement. Engagement is the key. And that depends on the kind of work that you give students to do. If you give them busy working worksheets, I don't care how good the curriculum is, they won't engage. What's the rule about school? If teachers and kids are in the room at the same time and they're engaged, you got a shot. That's all you need to know about school. That's all I know. But I know the corollary as well. If you don't have teachers or the kids are not there or they're both there and they're not engaged, you got no shot. That pretty much sums up the whole school business right there. Got to get good teachers, get them trained, get them coached up, get them mentored, get them modeled. Got to get kids in the room, and you got to have an engaging lesson with engaging work. With engaging work. I think the best that ever was talking about working on the work was Phil Schlechte. Dr. Schlechte was a professor of mine at Chapel Hill in the way back. He eventually created a learning center up in Kentucky where he was a professor up there. He passed away a few years ago, but working on the work, Phil Schlechte. If you want to know about how to create engaging work for students, it's not very thick. That should be your book. All right, learning theories, social constructivism. You're going to more than likely have to have some kind of a social constructivist type person or a learning person in your dissertation as one of your theorists. Because we need to know about how either students learn or adults learn. That's usually going to be a part of your dissertation unless you're doing and even if you're doing a straight leadership, you got to do professional development. Even if you're doing job satisfaction, sometimes we have to bring that in with that as well. And so Berger and Luckman, Durkheim and Mead, They were kind of the original people. But then the ones that we use in education kind of starts with Piaget and John Dewey, filters down through Bandura, Vygotsky, Jerome Bruner, and John Hattie. Those are your people. Those are you people that talk about how either adults or how students learn. We could throw in Linda Darling Hammond on how adults learn. Um, and we could throw in Thomas Gusky, again on how adults learn. But that's kind of your core. That is kind of your core. So you need to make sure that you know who your social constructivists are. But you can't just pick up whoever that you want. You have to pick up the people that are most relevant to your study. There's Sparkle. All right. And so it would behoove you to begin to learn about those theorists. And when you start thinking about your dissertation in a real sense, when you get down to it here, you're going to probably need one of these people as your primary theorist. They're the what we ought to be doing people. What should we be doing? Bandura, we should be doing modeling, laboratories, those kind of hands-on. That's what Bandura says. Now you need a secondary theorist that says, all right, how do we go about doing that? But you need a person that says, this is what you need to be doing. That's where those social cognitive people come from. All right. And then the last of Naisha's posts this week, discussion board number 7. I try to say this every time we're together. Assessment drives instruction, not testing, not testing. But that's what we've come to. We think testing is assessment. Testing is not assessment. Assessment drives instruction, where you assess kids individually and as groups and even as small groups and determine what you need to do next with them, what you need to reteach and what you need to do. Now, I'm going to get up on my rant again about MTSS and intervention. Teachers have stopped doing assessment because what do they figure? If they don't get it, not my problem. We'll fix it in post-production over here in MTSS. If your teachers are not assessing as they go and reteaching and relooping and doing the things that they need to do, they're not really teaching. They're just presenting information. They're just presenters. They might as well be on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
They're not teaching. They are not teaching. Well, those are my random thoughts. I ran a couple minutes over, but we started a couple. Those are my random thoughts for the week. Again, thanks, Naisha, for all her posts this week to give me some things that we could kind of catch up on all the different activities. These are kind of the takeaways from all the activities that we've been doing so far. These are the things that I hope that you've learned or that you now are willing to explore some ideas. I told you we wouldn't talk about, what to do in the room. This is curriculum from a leadership perspective, big ideas, thoughts, how to do the master schedule. It's more macro than micro. We can't get down in the weeds. If we do, we never get out of the rooms and the place, burns down around us. I used to walk into some buildings supervising principals in Charlotte where they hid in the classrooms all the time and the place, there was like field day, there'd be more kids out in the hall or out in the yard than there were in the rooms. And I would tell them as I came in, I believe I smelled smoke as I came in and heard a fiddle playing. Who was it? Nero was fiddling while Rome burned. That's what we're talking about here. If I smell smoke and hear a fiddle, we're in trouble. And so that's what we're talking about. Yes, we all need for you to be instructional leaders, but it can't be the way that in the traditional sense of going and staying in the rooms all day. You will not make it, not in this business. All right. Mondale, are you with me tonight?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you're doing your presentation tonight. Can you want to share your screen?
All right. It was there. Can you see it, Dr. Lamb?
Not yet. We're still waiting. There it comes. There you go.
Might be investing me another computer.
We can see it. I don't know if you can or not.
I can't, but if you all can see it, that'll.
You're on slide 4, looks like.
Okay.
Now you're on 3, 2, 1. All right, look at it. All right, here it is.
All right. All right. Good evening, everyone. I had the chapter of teacher evaluation. So what is teacher evaluation? At its core, it's a systematic way to judge teacher performance. It's not random or the anecdotal type of evaluation, but it's based on clear standards, classroom observations, and student outcomes. Evaluation serves two main purposes. First, the accountability piece, making sure expectations are met. And then second, the professional growth piece, helping teachers to develop their practice over time. Two types of evaluation. We have the summative and the formative evaluation. The summative evaluation is the final judgment. It's what informs contract decisions, tenure, or even dismissal. It's important, but it's not where the growth happens. The growth happens in our formative evaluations where we work with the teacher, we set up professional development, and it's ongoing feedback. It's designed to help them to grow and to build on the skills that they have. One key point to stress is that these two should be kept separate. If we overemphasize the summative evaluation, it can actually limit teacher growth because teachers may focus more on the rating than on learning and improving. Okay, modern evaluation systems. Modern teacher evaluation systems use multiple sources to assess and support teaching. They often rely on standards-based frameworks, classroom observations, and student achievement data. Some of the systems also use the value-added models for student achievement, which attempt to measure a teacher's impact on the student's learning through test scores. This approach can provide insight, but it's sometimes controversial because test scores don't always, as we know, capture the full picture of teaching quality. One of the key takeaways for the modern evaluation system is that it works best when they use multiple measures to give a fair, balanced view of the teacher's performance. One of the things that we see and that the author noted was that problems with traditional evaluations, over-reliance on checklists, infrequent observations, teachers are not being observed enough, lack of meaningful feedback. Sometimes the feedback was in the older times was just bland, one word, unsatisfactory, satisfactory. Those types of things that was not in depth, did not elaborate on what the teacher was really doing with the work that they really did inside the classroom. Also, problems with evaluation consisted of biases and inconsistency. Sometimes we bring our own personal biases to the table when we come to evaluate teachers, and we should not do that. But it should be a fair evaluation where we're looking at that individual, not from necessarily a gender perspective, how they're performing, but from a fair and equitable way of assessing the teacher. Okay, effective evaluation practices. By having multiple data sources, the teacher is often able to receive a more well-rounded list of observations other than just being observed from the principal and assistant principal. This is done by taking into account peer observations, self-assessments, and professional development plans, and evidence of student growth and impact on the student's growth and success. Frequent observations. So for us in North Carolina, the frequent observations for teachers evaluation, often part of the North Carolina, the NESES as we know it, allows the administrators to conduct multiple scheduled and unscheduled classroom visits. Formal observations are 45 minutes plus, and the informal observation is 20 plus minutes. To monitor instructional practices, and student engagement for the business of mentoring teachers and making summative decisions on retention is the reason why we do those frequent observations. Also, taking notes and for if a teacher's on a plan to document, doing that documentation for that summative evaluation information. Clear criteria. North Carolina teacher evaluations use a standardized rubric to measure performance across 5 key standards, which they are assessing educators at levels from developing to distinguished. Evaluators, usually principals or our categories for the evaluation tool that we use, fall under leadership, this teacher's leadership ability, the teacher's safe, diverse environments, how they work in those areas, how their content knowledge, how competent the teacher is in terms of their content that they teach, student learning, how the teacher facilitates learning for the student, and the reflection piece. Is the teacher a reflective educator? And these performance criteria are rated from developing, proficient, accomplished, or distinguished, and each one of those categories have a specific guideline that they should follow in terms of why a teacher is rated as developing, proficient, accomplished, or distinguished. The constructive feedback piece in North Carolina teacher evaluations focuses on growth rather than punishment, and it utilizes the North Carolina Educator Evaluation System standards. It must be specific, evidence-based, and actionable, using notices and wonder to highlight strengths while guiding improvements in instruction and student engagement. So when we're writing our observations and we're writing our constructive feedback, we may say, for example, a technique that we can use is a technique that lowers the stress and encourages reflection. I notice that you I notice that you have rapport with students, while a wonder could be something posed as, I wonder how you might challenge the students who are in your classroom. After that, we see the teacher involvement. In North Carolina, teacher involvement in evaluations is an active year-long process focused on self-reflection, collaboration, and professional growth rather than just top-down oversight. Teachers engage by completing self-assessments, developing professional development plans, better known as PDPs, participating in pre- and post-observation conferences, and submitting evidence of proficiency, such as lesson plans and student data that are aligned with the North Carolina educational evaluational standards. Okay, the role of the instructional leader. The instructional leader, as we know, is a coach as well as an evaluator, so that those two roles have to be balanced. And as the instructional leader, we don't want to run teachers away to the point where they don't want to see us coming. But as we evaluate teachers, We want to make them feel like we're there to help them and support them and help them to grow. An instructional leader's role is really about balance, and we're both coaches and evaluators, supporting teachers while also ensuring accountability. That only works if we build strong trust and relationships, stay fair and consistent in our decisions, and focus on helping every teacher grow professionally. The key takeaways that we see from the teacher evaluation platform are the key takeaways are they should support growth, not just measure performance. We do that by keeping performative feedback separate from summative ratings, using multiple measures to get a full picture and creating a culture where evaluation feels supportive rather than punitive. So we don't want them to feel like they're being punished through the evaluation, but we want them to feel that they're being supported as they're being evaluated, and helping them putting things in place where they feel like they are able to grow and to achieve better. All right, so that concludes chapter 16. That was that portion of the teacher evaluation. The next portion that I looked at was chapter 17 that I studied, stages of group development. In the stages of group development, we see that there are 5 stages to the group development. And then when we think about why group development matters, it's important to remember that teams don't become effective overnight, that they grow through stages. The first stage we see is forming, where everyone is just getting started. Some people know people, some other people don't know people. So we're trying to form a group. We're trying to build trust and establish bonds and relationships. The next thing we see is the storming stage. And that's where you think of the word brainstorming, where all these ideas, all these things that come off the top of people's heads are being put out and being said as an idea to help the group move along and to be successful. Where conflict growth naturally shows up is the storming stage. So that's not a problem, and the conflict should not be looked at, as the author says, as a problem, but it's actually necessary in order for growth to happen. From there, teams move into norming where roles and expectations become clear, identified, and then finally performing. Okay, performing is the place where the collaboration, where the rubber meets the road, where we get our hands dirty, where we start working, we start effectively collaborating with each other, and then the strong productiveness and production is taking place in that performing stage. The last stage, of course, is a journey, and that happens when the team completes its work. This stage is about reflecting on accomplishments, celebrating the successes, and transitioning responsibilities, even though groups may disassemble. The closure is important for learning and growth. And I thought that that was one of the most important ones, was a journey, because oftentimes we forget to celebrate our successes, celebrate the good things that we've done as a group, to come together, to give ourselves a pat on the back, and encourage us to go on a little bit further. Chapter 17 stresses the importance of healthy conflict, and that it isn't something that groups should avoid, but it's something that teams have to move through in order to grow and truly work well together. And one of the things that the leader does, the effective leader does, is that he helps the team, the group, to work through conflict successfully. He doesn't see it as something to run away from or to shy away from, but he sees it as an opportunity to get better instead of just running away from conflict. Okay, the characteristics of effective groups. Shared goals. Effective teams start with shared goals. Everyone understands what we're working toward and why it is necessary and matters. That common purpose keeps the group focused and properly aligned. Open communication. There needs to be open communication And that means that we feel comfortable sharing our ideas, our experiences, asking questions, and giving feedback. It's not just talking, but it's also listening and making sure every voice is being heard. Next is trust and respect. One of the most important ones on the characteristics of effective groups because it builds the foundation. Team members, if they don't trust you, they not going to listen to you. They're not going to likely work with you. Team members feel safe to be honest, take risks, and even disagree. Knowing those differences will be handled professionally makes the group cohesion stronger, and individuals want to work together. Focus on student learning. Focus on student learning. At the end of the day, the work that we do is about students learning and achieving and growing. So that's the lens that we use to guide decisions, conversations, and priorities. And the key piece tying all of this together is collective responsibility. We succeed or struggle as a team, and we all share ownership for success. One of the things that I enjoy is when someone does something that I'm a part of the team, I can take ownership in that success as well, because when somebody says your school's name or my school's name, if we're a part of that, then we can take ownership in that success. Okay, next is group member roles, task roles. The author talked about leader and recorder was among other things that the author talked about roles. But these are the roles that keep the work moving. You have people that are facilitating the conversation, keeping the group on task, and capturing the key ideas. Task roles are essential for productivity and making sure the team actually accomplishes its goals. Personal roles. Personal roles include encourager and mediator, and it also has a tone of being, when personal role, tone of being a democratic individual that is a listener, that works with the individual. It's not all about the task, but it's about discussing. It's about building the relationship piece among group members. These roles, the people who are in the group with the personal roles, encourages also help to build confidence and keep participation high. So while there are many tasks,
my speaker,
as there are many tasks oftentimes to do, the personal roles are the roles where individuals are able to build confidence and build each other up. Participation is high, while mediators help navigate conflict and maintain positive relationships. These roles are critical for healthy team structure. Okay, one of the last points that was highlighted in terms of group member roles was the dysfunctional roles. And the dysfunctional roles were similar to the conflict areas where they were not there to be shunned or be casted away, but the dysfunctional roles were roles that could be embraced, could be positive, could be turned into something positive for the group's success. Sometimes we see the roles that can disrupt the group, like a blocker who resists progress, or a dominator who takes over conversations. These behaviors can limit collaboration and impact team effectiveness if they're not addressed. As leaders, it's important that we recognize these roles as they show up and we actively manage them, supporting productive roles, encouraging positive relationships, encouraging positive behaviors, and addressing anything that may be holding the group back. The next thing that was highlighted in chapter 17 was about handling conflict. As I mentioned already, the author lets us know that conflict is natural and necessary, and that conflict is normal, a normal part of working in teams. and actually a necessary part of group functioning. When people bring different perspectives and ideas, some levels of disagreement is bound to happen, and it can lead to better outcomes. So the more people oftentimes that are in a part of a group or trying to work towards a common goal or have a hard task ahead of them, oftentimes there's going to be conflict, and that's a normal and natural process. Addresses how to handle conflict, address openly and constructively. The key is how we handle it. Effective teams address conflict openly, and the leader helps facilitate that, making sure that the team and the group stays on task and handles conflict in a healthy and productive way. Not avoiding it, because sometimes that very conflict is the pathway or the gateway or the breakthrough, if you will, to be able to get to where we need to get to as a group. The work that's done is done through each member working constructively and staying solution focused as they work towards the common goal. Focus is on issues and not personalities. This is a big one because oftentimes when there is an issue that comes up, sometimes people have some overbearing personalities, and their personalities are hard to get away from. So sometimes we attribute the conflict to the personality, but we should not focus on that individual's personality, but rather we should continue to focus on the issue that is at hand that we're trying to work through. It is important to keep the focus on the issue and not the individual. And when we separate the problem from the person, conversations stay professional and productive. And it's important to remember that avoiding conflict doesn't make it go away. It usually leads to weaker performance and unresolved issues, while healthy conflict helps teams to grow and to improve. All right, leading effective meetings. In order to have an effective meeting, the author talks about having a clear agenda. And many of us know that having an agenda is the best way and best practice to stay on task and not have sidebars getting started or getting off the subject and off the business at hand. Effective meeting has a clear agenda. Everyone should know what we're discussing and why before we even begin the meeting in most cases. And so that sets the tone and keeps us focused on what the mission is at hand that we've come to do. It is not just about what we talk about, but what we walk away with when we come to a meeting. With a clear agenda, it's not just about what we discuss, but it's about what we're able to take away from that meeting. Every meeting should have clear outcomes, decisions made, next steps identified, or actions assigned. Time management. Time management is respecting people's time, which is critical. We've all been there when people start to ramble, and if you don't have an agenda, time goes by. Somebody's talking about this, they start talking about other things, and then time has passed by, and people are tired, and you haven't gotten anything accomplished. But strong meetings will stay on track and prioritize what matters the most and start and end as they were scheduled. Participation from all members. Effective meetings aren't the voice of one, but of many people. We want to create space for all team members to contribute because that's where the best ideas and true collaboration happens. One thing we all know is that poorly run meetings are one of the biggest barriers to collaboration. When meetings are focused and purposeful, they actually become a powerful tool for teamwork instead of a frustrating thing. Dealing with dysfunction, addressing negative behaviors early. So when we notice negative behaviors, we shouldn't wait, but there is a way to address those behaviors immediately. It's important to address them early. Small issues can quickly grow if they're ignored. So being proactive helps keep the team on track. Using norms and expectations. Using norms and expectations, strong teams rely on clear norms and expectations. When those are established and consistently carried out and reinforced, they give us a shared way to address challenges and hold each member accountable. Providing structure and support. Structure and support help prevent dysfunction that might look like clear protocols, defined roles, or guided processes that keep the team focused and productive. It's important to remember that dysfunction doesn't just affect one meeting or one team. It can offset and throw off the entire school improvement efforts. Addressing it will addressing structure and support well is essential to moving the work forward. And finally, to summarize, that it's important for us to know that the group develops in stages: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. Second, that conflict isn't just something to fear, but it's a natural and necessary part of growth. And third, leadership plays a critical role in guiding collaboration, managing roles, and keeping teams on track. And lastly, when groups work effectively, they don't just function, they drive school success and positively develop student learning. And that's my chapter 16 and 17.
Very good. All right. You can stop your share now. I have some notes for you on each of these three topics. I want to remind you, excuse me, whether you're in North or South Carolina, evaluation, formal and informal, is very scripted. There's not a lot of give or take there. But a couple of notes for you on that. Make sure that your language matches your rating. I think Mondale mentioned that you can upset people with their ratings, and that can become an issue and a problem. My last year as a high school teacher, we got a new principal. This was back in the formative stages of teacher evaluation. We hadn't been evaluated, but then all of a sudden we were. The last year that I taught, we were evaluated. Next to the last, we were evaluated for the first time ever. I'd already tenured. And then the next year we were evaluated, but the rating system changed. We initially were rated on a 4-point scale, and then it went to a 6-point scale the second year. They were still trying it out. And we got a new principal that year, and I think he was just so lazy that he just Xeroxed the evaluations from the year before. Well, what was the problem? Everybody got 4s rather than 6s. This wonderful language, I think it was exact same ones, they just same language, but the ratings and the language didn't match. And then when he was challenged about that, his excuse was, well, I don't believe anybody deserves that. I don't give them any more than a 4. Well, a lot of the good people quit, left, went other places. He lost. Now, a teacher had been recruited to come there, and it was just one of those anomalies that she had parents in the area, and she came back to kind of end her career to do elder care and to be back in the area. And she had been recruited by the previous principal. He took, there was a shakeup over the summer. He went to the central office, and the new principal came in. And she got 4s at the end of the year, and she retired. I don't have to put up with this. Now, you can say, well, she wasn't A. Let's be clear now. She wasn't A. She was the National Science Teacher of the Year, reigning National Science Teacher of the Year. The one that gets the year sabbatical and travels all over the world, and DPI trots them out like they're a show pony every time they get a chance. That was her. Her name was Lucy Daniels. She was the National Science Teacher of the Year, and he gave her 4s on a 6-point scale. I thought nobody could be that dumb, but he was. So my point is, if you write 4s, give them 4s. If you write 6s, give them 6s. That's the only thing. It's a very scripted system, but again, we have that, as Mondale said, that personal bias may come in there. If you're gonna give them a 4, write a 4, but don't write 6s and give them 4s. That's the biggest thing on formal observations. The biggest mistake that I see administrators make. Their language and their rating don't match. Okay. That's that one. All right. Walkthroughs. I think walkthroughs are greatly underrated. But here's the problem with walkthroughs. As you said, people use checklists. But too many times on walkthroughs, I see them commenting on things that they didn't see. A walkthrough is a snapshot. Comment on the quality of what you saw, not what you didn't see. It might have been the 5 minutes before you got there or the 10 minutes after you left. I see that all the time, and I'm like, what's wrong with these people? It's supposed to be a snapshot, a walkthrough. What was the quality of what you saw? Don't put it in context of, well, I didn't see this part. I didn't see the guided practice. If they were doing independent practice when you come in the room, how good was the independent practice? Don't evaluate people on what you didn't see. That's the second big issue I see with evaluation. We evaluate people on what we didn't see rather than what we did see. How good was what you saw? Well, it was great, but no, there's no but. If what you saw was great, then that's good. That's something you can build on. But don't hand them, a reward with one hand and kick them with the foot on the other side. This was great, but I didn't see that. Well, no. This was great, period. Don't do the addendum that we all, that don't bolo punch them. Don't punch them low with the other hand. Comment. Walkthroughs only work if you comment on the quality of what you saw, not what you didn't see. So that's my 2 tricks on evaluation, and that'll stand you in good stead. My wife, I told you, watches just in a loop. The Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders making the team that comes on one of those stations, and she's got a TV fix, so when she turns it on, it comes on automatically. She says, "Well, it's the same seasons over and over again." Don't ask me. But one of the things that I see that they do in evaluation, this is the last of that, and I'll move on to my other 2 points. They evaluate people or they punish people on the basis of things that they knew when they invited them to come. She's too short. She didn't get any shorter during the tryout period. You knew she was short when you picked her. Well, she's got a weight prop. Well, she don't weigh any more now than she did, last week when you picked her. Well, she's not real flexible. She's not even more flexible. If you take people who have shortcomings, and you will, don't evaluate. Work with them to correct those things if they're correctable. If not, then you've just got to live with it. You made that choice, not them. The classic example is telling the basketball player to get taller. Well, how do you do that? But I've told you, watching Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders is the best example of how not to lead and how not to run an organization that I've ever seen. They do everything wrong. Everything. You should watch them. They do everything wrong. I mean, from an organizational standpoint, they are a dumpster fire. But that's one of the things that they do is they're very critical, and they cut and over things that they had these when they came, and they're not changeable things. You can't change your height. You can't change your weight in any real way in 2 weeks. You can't improve your flexibility. You either are or you aren't. I mean, things that they can't do. Now, if you want to beat them up over things that they're not being able to do to progress, that's, you've worked with them and they're not progressing. That's one thing. But you can't, the things that are the variables that are constant and can't be changed, you ought not be beating teachers up over those kinds of things. And I've seen that a lot. So that's kind of my notes on evaluations. Quickly on groups. Obviously the format that Mondale presented tonight is how to run a PLC, because that's where we do most of our grouping. I think the most important part of PLCs is the norming, making sure everybody understands their role and accepts their role. That's where the conflict comes in. They don't accept their role. I thought I was in charge. No, no, but most of the conflict comes from not observing the norms. Conflict in itself is not good. It doesn't always lead to growth. If it's about those kinds of things, conflict should be over ideas and programs and thoughts. Shouldn't be over who gets to be in charge or who gets to talk or any of those things. That's just dysfunctional. And Mondale the book identify the blockers and the dominators, but in modern times, those take a way back seat to the instigators, the passive aggressive people. We see a lot of that now, especially in and around curriculum. A lot of passive aggressive people who instigate without, they aren't upfront in their shenanigans. They're very passive aggressive. You see that. There is no that's not the good kind of conflict. That conflict will not make you grow and get better. That kind of conflict will destroy your teams. Understand that some kind of conflicts are healthy, but not all. Not all. The passive aggressive, the instigator types that are always there's a power struggle underneath all of that. You have to sometimes it's time for a new ox. Sometimes those people have to go. That does not bring about growth and change and betterment. That just brings about trouble all the time. And if those people can't get out of that behavior, you have to get rid of those people. You can't live with that. All conflict is not good. And then effective meetings. I would suggest that you fill out your agenda at least a week ahead. Sleep on it a couple of days, and then on about the third day, go through that agenda and say, what could I move to an email? What could I move to an email? Just a bulk distribution to everybody. What on this list do I do? What could just be given distributed? That's the biggest trick that I have for managing time on meetings. The majority of things in the meetings that I go to could have been handled in an email. And if it can be, do it. My last story there is I go to a meeting once a month every Thursday morning at 9 o'clock at the library. It usually takes an hour and a half. It's got about 15 minutes worth of information in it. It always takes an hour and a half, except one time in the fall when the lady that runs the meeting, she had a more important meeting. Well, that's the first thing. I wouldn't have said I had a more important meeting. But she did. And so we're going to have to be quick today and get through our agenda in 30 minutes. That was still 15 minutes too long. But what does that tell you? When it was to her advantage because she had a meeting that she wanted to go to, she could do it in 30 minutes or less, just like dominoes. But the whole idea of the hour and a half meeting is to exercise her ego. That's the second part. Anything that can be communicated in an email, do it. The second part is anything that's an exercise in your ego, let it go. Just let it go. That's the hardest one. I can tell you to do it, but I can't tell you how. It's just hard. But anything that you can identify as an exercise in your ego, you need to let go. And that you'll be surprised. Your meetings will get cut in half immediately if you'll do those two tricks. And people will respect that. All right, let's talk about something important. Our time is we got 1 minute. All right, so the next time I will see you will be Saturday week in Charlotte. Is that correct? At 9 o'clock. And all right, so Saturday is we won't have to have any lunch for Sunday because we'll get out at a reasonable time. But Saturday we need lunch. And I told you we do potluck. Does everybody want to do Mexican? All right, if you want to bring something, I'll bring enough. I'll have something to drink and some chips and some salsa, and I'll make a taco pie. I'll try to make one with chicken. I don't know that anybody not eat chicken. I'll make it with chicken because a lot of people don't eat other things, but I'll make it. But I'll bring us some stuff. We'll have enough stuff that we'll do lunch in, and we'll so we can get out at 3 o'clock on Saturday, and then we won't have to have anything for Sunday. And I'll bring the normal coffee, juice, and pastry Saturday morning. If you want to bring something with a Mexican theme, if you don't, that's fine. I'll bring some stuff. All right. We have anything else for the good of the group tonight? I see we're dead on 8 o'clock. We all good? All right. Again,
I have something for the good of the
under the
group.
weather. Make sure you pray for her. Okay, go ahead, Sparkle.
I have an interview on the 14th. It's like initial, well, it's like a pre first. And then if I do well, I'll go to the next round. So if y'all please keep me in your thoughts. It's for an AP position in a different county. So I'm very excited.
Yay. Yay. Sounds good. We'll pray for you. We'll send good wishes over the wire. That's great news. Wonderful to hear. Good for you. All right. Anybody else have anything tonight? Thanks for all the hearts. It's good to see you all tonight. This is the highlight of my week. I appreciate you. I will see you Saturday week in Charlotte. Everybody be safe. Good night.